Hi everybody, it's Kristen. Sorry I could not be there today. I am hoping that this Screencast-O-Matic will work out okay. I am going to be taking us through the assessment and the professional development around assessment, and we are focusing on phonics, and later on Caitlin will be going through and discussing more with the classroom instruction component. One thing to keep in mind that all the following slides, they are related to professional development and the designing of assessments. So some are kind of built in a sense, to mimic the professional development practices. So to begin with PD, I would host and start the concept that this is going to be working off of backwards design. We would begin with a specific standard. You would unpack that standard, looking at the know, understand, and do, which is the CUD. We will decide as a PLC then what would be accepted as evidence of proficiency. And again, that is something that the PLC would need to agree upon. The standard that I looked at, I was trying to think of what I could look at since we're doing phonics with some lower grade levels and still keep it assessment focused. And so I found the standard of reading foundations of 2.3. And that I found after a little bit of digging to know and apply grade level phonics and word analysis skills in decoding words. Students should be able to understand and distinguish long and short vowels when reading regularly spelled one-syllable words. And then the do would be with the grade appropriate word list. Students will sort and identify words as either short vowel or long vowel. So within the PLC, obviously, usually you would probably typically have different grade levels. So as the PD host, I would tell people to start with their PLC and unpack the standard that they have selected and discuss will you really accept as the proficiency for evidence of learning. How will you know when your student got it? So again, the backwards design process, and for us to think about then too would be how could we incorporate a literacy strategy or a literacy model, and which one would work best. And the gradual release of responsibility then should be part of that backwards design. Think about what you could do for the direct instruction, how you could model it for the kiddos through the think alouds and the activation of the prior knowledge. Then moving on to the we do, if we're following like a balanced literacy model, it would be shared readings, the class discussion, the table group work, working with elbow partners, with the teacher, of course, observing and intermingling throughout. Then the you do component, where students practice, that could look like homework, formative assessments, and then from those formative assessments, you can decide if you're ready to move on, or if you need to do reteaching, if you need to do the summative assessment, or if you are ready to extend, depending on your students' needs. Next, so again, as a PD, I would have shown the previous slides, and then I would turn around and have a slide like this incorporated for the PLC to get to work. So they would do the I do, we do, you do idea of backwards design, with keeping, again, in models of effective literacy instruction in mind and different reading strategies for their kiddos. Sorry, skipped ahead. Formatives, what will this look like? How are you going to check for understanding? This is part of the assessment piece. Will it be worksheets? Are you going to do class activities? Are you going to meet in small groups? As we all know, that there needs to be evidence of learning prior to summative assessments. Best practices would tell us that we need to offer multiple and varied assessments. The summative products or process may look different. However, summatives should always reflect formatives. Students should have had the opportunity to practice the skill and master it prior to demonstrating their depth of knowledge and mastery of the standard. Here's just an example of a sheet that I found that could possibly be used as a summative to see how students are moving on and if they've learned everything, or you could then use it as a formative if you wanted to do it as a check and then find something similar to this as a summative assessment. Time. Again, I will have modeled and provided time within the PLC through the PD, but every PD needs to have a time component for the PLC to work. It's one thing to throw these slides up during professional development. It's another thing to actually give them the examples and the modeling and the GRR to our professional peers and the PLC to have that time to work. Finally, looking at the fact that it is a work in progress, you'll probably need multiple days of PD combined with PLC time. I would recommend starting small, 1 CFA and 1 CSA, and build from there, picking just one standard to work on at a time. I know some schools are very lock and step on what they need to do. Others allow for more autonomy, but at the end of the day, everybody must be on the same page for the CUD of the standard, and you must be on the same page for the evidence of learning. What will it look like? And those are the key components and a model of how you could run some of the professional development around assessment, and also incorporating what we've learned in class with literacy and strategies and models, and working within a PLC, of course, obviously being a strong component there. So I leave you with this. While the PLC agrees upon selected evidence of learning, the autonomy of the teachers is the fact that they are responsible for knowing their students and how best to reach them. Thanks, guys. Caitlin will go ahead and take the rest over.